New York's Brooklyn neighborhood in the United States. The majority of American ultra-Orthodox Jews live here. They are known as Hasidic Jews, meaning those who love God in Hebrew.
Shmuley is here.
We are with the Katz family, who this evening are celebrating the ceremony marking the end of Shabbat, the weekly day of rest. Around the table are the grandparents, Shlomo and Brocha, their daughter Rivki, Yoni, her husband, both religious studies teachers, and their 9 children. The youngest was born 6 weeks ago, but the evening doesn't stop there. The Chabad Lubavitch are getting ready to celebrate one of the biggest events of the year.
We are about to go to 770 Eastern Parkway, the headquarters of Chabad Lubavitch worldwide movement. You never know what to expect there.
The Chabad Lubavitch are one of the many branches of the Hasidic movement. There are around 15,000 of them in New York. The whole Katz family belongs to it.
For the most part, it's the Chabad Lubavitch Hasidic community. Almost every house here is Hasidic.
Each Hasidic group has its own name, its own codes, and its own icons. For the Chabad Lubavitch, the face of the movement's last leader is displayed everywhere, Rabbi Schneerson, who died in 1994. This evening, they are celebrating his birthday in suitable fashion. He would have been 121 years old, a huge party, and thanks to Yoni Katz, we'll be able to attend it.
Welcome to 770 Eastern Parkway.
We're inside 770. This is very rarely seen on TV.
Good to be back.
In the synagogue, the atmosphere is not one of prayer and introspection. Hundreds of men of all ages are dancing to traditional music, remixed to an electro beat. For Hasidic Jews, singing and dancing are the cornerstones of religious practice. It's their way of communing with God. Vodka is flowing freely at some tables.
A lot of these are yeshiva students, boys who are learning in Talmudic seminaries, and a lot of them have come from out of town.
It may be a party, but there are certain limits. Women are not allowed to mingle with men. Their celebrations are taking place on the first floor, behind a tinted window. In the rooms next door, there are dozens of men drinking together.
So this is actually yeshiva students coming from Brunois, which is near Paris, a suburb of Paris, where they learn, and they're coming all the way to New York for this auspicious day.
Quelque part, c'est la journée de l'année. Alors chacun il a passé son miracle pour arriver ici.
The celebrations will last for 2 days. For several weeks, we were able to film inside the world of American Hasidic Jews. There are 200,000 of them in the United States, i.e. less than 3% of American Jews. Most of them live in 3 New York neighborhoods, Williamsburg, Borough Park, and Crown Heights. Each movement bears the name of the village from which it originated in Eastern Europe.
to being filmed in this neighborhood?
Absolutely not. People don't like it. We don't have televisions in the house.
Their religious practice hasn't changed since the 18th century. They impose strict dress codes for both men and women, and speak Yiddish, the language of Eastern European Jews before the Second World War. At school, they learn to read Hebrew before English.
The Hebrew letters are connected to their soul. So you start with the soul foundation, and you move up from there.
They live cut off from the world, marry other Hasidic Jews, and raise families that often have more than 6 children.
My wife and I have 14 children, because God doesn't create what he doesn't need.
In the United States, where religious freedom is fundamental, they've prospered since they arrived after the Second World War.
That's what people were thinking. The Jews around the Holocaust, that was the last generation. And boy, were they wrong. Look at this.
But when they leave New York, their presence is not always welcomed. Like in Monroe, a small country town where thousands of Hasidic Jews have settled.
We had a real problem as that community became a larger and larger part of the Monroe. The reaction was, no freaking way. Yeah.
And for those who want to leave the community, the price to pay is huge.
Get out of here, you're not welcome. It has all the elements of the cult.
Hasidic Jews, a community that lives according to age-old rituals at the heart of one of the most modern cities in the world. The life of Hasidic Jews is dictated by stringent religious practice.
Shmuel, you want to go run on the dreidel? Go run on the dreidel. Shmuley.
Today, Yoni Katz is going shopping with his 8th child, Shmuli.
Yeah.
In the Chabad Lubavitch's shopping street. There are restaurants and clothing shops with a very limited choice, which you only find in the Hasidic community.
I'm actually looking for a nice shirt.
You've come to the right place. Sorry, that's Shmuley.
According to Chabad Lubavitch customs, men must only wear black trousers and white shirts.
I'll just do it one sleeve. Yeah, it seems perfect.
Is it easy to shop when you're Hasidic man?
Very easy. It's either black or white, and everything you need is right here on the main street. So I sort of like it. You know, you don't have millions of different options. Good job.
They must wear a hat.
I'm looking for a hat. If you have a black one, that would be good.
That's a little Chabad Lubavitch inside joke, because of course all the hats are black, and under the black hat a kippah, which young boys have to wear from the age of 3.
Perfect. I'll take it. Very rabbinic. You want to try it on? Oh, wow. This is amazing.
That's it now.
Okay, all right, thank you for the hat.
Back to 770. For the men in the community, the day begins in the synagogue. They have to pray 3 times a day with a precise ritual.
We have the prayer shawl, the tallis. Every prayer shawl has 4 corners. Then you take the tallis off, and you go like this. Make a little prayer. There are tefillin. It says to bind one on your arm by your heart, which represents that your emotions should be in sync with God, and one you put on your head, which represents that your mind should be in sync with God.
Only the men are required to pray. Three times a week, the scrolls of the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, are read publicly.
It's a very special holy ceremony. As you can see, they're trying to get the Torah scroll back into the ark. Oh, here we go. This is where it gets violent. I love it.
Each worshipper tries to touch and kiss the sacred scrolls.
What are you doing? What are you talking about?
Women's main role is to get married and have children. There is no compulsory prayer for the women, but so-called modesty rules. They have to wear skirts or dresses long enough to cover their knees and sleeves that hide their elbows. From the day they get married, they must cover their head with a wig or scarf. In the most extreme communities, the rabbis make women shave their heads. But Chabad Lubavitch women, like Rivki Katz, wear a wig over their natural hair.
The curls kind of fell, but this is how it is. Do you think it looks good like this? Does it need?
The wigs are made from real hair, which makes them undetectable.
Tell me if you want me to build it up more or less.
Yes, it's great.
Just
I
having-
never had it like this. I like
No,
it.
I'm making it crimpy, messy.
Yeah.
So are you wearing a wig too?
Yeah.
Really?
You don't
Doesn't
believe
look
me?
like it.
You don't believe me? So wait, see?
I started the morning after my wedding, so it's very exciting. Very exciting. It's a big change. But they make it very easy today. There's so many beautiful options.
It looks like hair. We think that people outside would see you as just a normal person, so what's different?
Right. It's about that other people can't see your hair. It's really about your own identity, your own self, preserving your own sexual energy, keeping it inside, which is where it's needed and which is where it's most powerful.
Rivki teaches religious classes to young girls from non-Hasidic Jewish families. Today she's teaching them a key rule. When they're married, they'll have to immerse themselves once a month in the mikvah, the ritual bath, filled only with rainwater.
You need to be perfectly clean before coming into the mikvah. So nothing separating you from the water. So even nail polish, you take off the nail polish so that your whole body gets in contact with the water.
Before you get married, you go to the mikveh to put you on the right path. When a woman has her period, her menstrual cycle, it's not a time for her to be intimate with her husband. After her cycle ends, now it's time to be together again because her body's not busy. Her body's available to welcome him and receive him. So she goes to the mikveh before reuniting with her husband again.
We'll do that next week. Hanukkah, what comes after Hanukkah?
Husband and wife are not allowed to touch each other during this period. And outside the immediate family, any physical contact between men and women is forbidden. The next day, Yoni Katz will gather at the Jewish cemetery of Montefiore in New York, with all the other Chabad Lubavitch at the tomb of their historic leader.
Many people travel great distances just to spend even a few minutes inside the Ohel to say Mazel Tov to the Rebbe on his birthday, and also to give him the good news and to be recharged and inspired to go back.
In the Hasidic world, the Rebbe is the central figure around whom the whole community revolves. Some people attribute him with almost magical powers.
We're about to enter the gravesite of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the seventh in the lineage of the Chabad Lubavitch Hasidic dynasty.
There's a huge queue in the cemetery. Men on their own, women and families silently pray as they wait to be able to enter the tomb.
You feel the importance. People sort of trying to capitalize on the energy and the significance of the day. So yeah, definitely.
This Rebbe is so important because he led the movement for 43 years and totally revolutionized it. Like the other great American Hasidic leaders, Rabbi Schneerson fled Europe when the Second World War was raging, leaving behind him a world that would soon be destroyed by the Nazis. When he arrived in New York in 1941, he wanted to rebuild this lost world, the world of the Jewish villages of Eastern Europe before the war, known as shtetls. In this way, the first Hasidic movements were established in the United States, primarily made up of Holocaust survivors. The community has grown since then. Yoni Katz's family comes from Germany and Hungary.
Hey, you want to play? No? Yes.
He takes us to 770. 20 years after his death, the Rebbe's ghost lingers everywhere.
Welcome to the headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. This little vestibule that we're standing in has so much history.
Films in praise of the Rebbe are being shown on the screen in the entrance.
The Rebbe would distribute dollars to everyone and anyone that would come by. The idea was to take that dollar and give it to a poor person. And then the idea was to do a good deed, an act of charity.
And behind a door, there's an enormous telephone switchboard. In the 70s, the Rebbe decided to globalize the movement, exporting the Chabad Lubavitch message across the Jewish world. So, to keep in touch with his emissaries abroad, a young member of his community invented an international communication system. Here he is, Chaim Halberstam.
This is me, still with a black beard, before it turned white. And I tell people when I used to be young and beautiful. Today I'm just beautiful. Those people you see in this picture, this is the Rebbe's emissaries all over the world. Today there are about 5,500 of them. In those days it was only about 4,000. Those people wanted to hear what the Rebbe has to say. So we set up this system.
At a time when the internet didn't exist, the Rebbe's words were broadcast live to all the faithful by telephone.
Argentina, Madison, Wisconsin, Australia, Chicago, all over the world, many more countries. And we started out with one phone line, regular telephone, and they listened. This was the best system. We made it right here. We built it here. And it worked.
A network that has enabled the movement to become one of the most popular in the world. In Brooklyn, the Chabad Lubavitch neighborhood is buzzing because tomorrow is Pesach, the Jewish Passover that celebrates the Hebrews' liberation from slavery in Egypt. It's one of the most important festivals of the year, but it brings its own share of extra chores.
Okay, we're gonna go immerse these vessels. I need one person to help me.
Yoni and 4 of his children are going to wash their brand new utensils, purchased for the occasion, in a rainwater pool once again.
Oh, look at this, perfect.
With a bank card reader at the entrance.
Okay, is it open now? Okay.
Oh, that's so smart. They keep that there.
So do 1, 2.
Each utensil must be immersed 3 times.
1, 2. And now we know they're good to go. They're like holy because they're going to be used for holy purposes. Food that you make blessings on and for Passover meals.
At home, the grandmother Brocha is cooking for the whole family.
If you'd like help, you can help. Wash your hands with soap first.
This?
And then we will get started. Kids are having fun.
Rivki and Yorni have travelled from Florida, where they live with their children, to spend the 8 days of the holiday with Rivki's parents. And during this period, the list of prohibitions gets longer. First of all, the Jewish Passover celebration stipulates that you must not eat or bring any products containing yeast, such as bread, into the house. So you have to do the housework to remove every trace of bread.
The cooking of the holiday, we scrub everything, and then we cover it with silver foil so nothing leaven touched it. Yes, the water is boiling.
In addition, there are the prohibitions that apply throughout the year. No pork, no shellfish, kosher meat, and it's forbidden to mix milk and meat.
Meat, dishwasher. I also have a separate microwave. And this is my dairy side of the kitchen. So I have my dairy oven, where I bake, and the dairy stovetop, and all my dairy utensils are kept on this side. Have you ever seen anything like this? This is what you call a horseradish root. So it's actually very, very strong. I'm gonna peel it and cube it and run it through the food processor to make it fine. Here is my gefilte fish, whitefish and carp, ground fresh, and do it homemade. And of course, it's tradition.
Brocha was born in Florida into a family of 15 children. In the ultra-Orthodox world, contraception is only allowed under exceptional circumstances and with the rabbi's permission.
I'm number 5 in the list. And this was at my baby number 15 at her wedding. So all the children, my siblings and their children came in for that wedding. This is my pride and joy. My husband and I and all our children, we have 7 children, 6 are married, and we now have 31 children, grandchildren. This picture has 30 because the last one was just born 6 weeks ago.
Okay, we begin looking for chametz. Who knows the bracha that we make before we start?
Me!
Yes.
Me!
The week's celebrations will begin.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al bir chametz.
10 pieces of bread are hidden in the house, and the children have to find them.
Uh-oh, what's this? In the bag.
Where's the bag? Second piece.
Let's keep searching. Tomorrow before noon, you cannot have any more bread in the house. Uh-oh, what's this? Let's see if there's any chametz in here.
9.
The next morning, in front of the large synagogue,
Good shot. Who else?
the residents of the neighborhood are burning the last pieces of bread that they've found at home in the street.
There we go.
All under the gaze of the New York police. For Yoni Katz, it's a victory over history.
That's what people were thinking. The Jews around the Holocaust, that was the last generation. And boy, were they wrong. Look at this. Here we are in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and Jews practicing the same custom as their forefathers, burning the chametz on Passover, as far as the eye can see here. America's the land of the free. That's the very beginning of the Constitution. The freedom of religion. You're able to practice and serve God in the way that you see fit.
The United States allows all religious communities to worship in the public arena, which is ideal for groups who want to live according to the strictest and most rigid rules. We head to the Borough Park neighborhood, still in Brooklyn. "70% of the residents here are Hasidic Jews, and most of them are even stricter than the Chabad Lubavitch. This is where Rachel Freyer lives. She's elegant,
Are you here?
but follows the clothing regulations of her community, long clothes and a wig. She became the first Hasidic judge on the Supreme Court of the state of New York. She was elected thanks to the votes from her neighborhood's residents.
When I ran for civil court, there were other candidates that ran against me. It was a three-way race, and I got 40% of the vote. By the time I ran for a judge, most of the people knew who I was already because I had done a lot of pro bono volunteer work within the community. Oh, I see you. Ellie!
Rachel Fryer is meeting her daughter Leah and her son-in-law Gabriel. Leah is 24 years old and has 2 children.
Ellie, want to go to sleep? No? So smile.
Rachel belongs to the Bobov Hasidic movement, which originated in Bobowa, a town in southern Poland. Here, from the age of 3 years, boys let locks of hair, known as payot, grow on each side of their face. And on holidays like today, married men wear a traditional Eastern European fur hat, the streimel. In this community, they speak a mixture of English and Yiddish, the language of Eastern European Jews, which virtually disappeared after the Second World War.
Oh, this is kind of glitchy. He thinks everything is like a glitch. He can jump. The time does he thinks he can jump over everything.
Gabriel, who was born and grew up in the United States, only learnt English at the age of 8. Like in the other Hasidic branches, men study religion all their life and work as late as possible. So it's up to the women to earn the money for the household. Paradoxically, even though the Hasidic world is dominated by men, women have more access to the outside world.
When I was growing up and I went to school, we were taught about the value of the men being able to study in Talmudic academies. I said to myself then, I wanted to marry a Talmudic scholar and that I was going to work to support him. You know, God was good to me. I had good jobs. I was able to support my husband. And now when my husband went into business, he does commercial finance, and he did well. Even though I didn't have to work, I continued working.
After funding her husband's religious studies, nowadays Rachel pays so that her 3 sons-in-law do not work and study all day long.
And this is a star. And this a heart. It's red.
Like all the members of their community, Leah and Gabriel were virgins when they married, and their first meeting was carefully arranged.
There's something called a shadchan, which is a matchmaker. So the matchmaker, you know, over the years when you're in shidduchim, which means when you're, you know, ready to get married, calls your parents, each parent, and asks, like, you know, a boy came up, does this, you know, do you think it's a good idea? And then both parents do information about the family, the girl, the boy. And after both sides think it's a good idea, then first, let's say I met his mother, and my father met him, and then since they both like each other, then we met. We met for an hour and a half once, and then 2 days later again, and then we got engaged. The first time I wasn't sure. The second time I knew right away. Hey!
Even when you go out with someone for a year, you can't really know. Someone could play again. If everything looks okay, you have to rely on God. It makes life much easier. It makes everything calm. There's no stress when you rely on God.
Even though they barely knew each other, Gabriel and Leah got married 7.5 months later. They wanted to show us the pictures of the ceremony.
My parents, my father, my mother, my siblings.
During the ceremony, the men and women are each on one side of the room, as is always the case outside the family circle.
The husband comes and covers the face of the bride. Then you walk down, there's like the chuppah. You walk around 7 times. Then he gives the ring. Then there's dancing by the wedding.
Everyone dances, but separately. Leah wanted to show us the pictures of the men partying, but not the women, out of a sense of modesty. Gabriel trades a little on the stock market, but the rest of the time he studies the Talmud, the text of Jewish religious laws.
So let me know what you think.
Meanwhile, Leah works in the basement of the house.
Are these people that you wrote, or there's other people?
With her mother, she's set up an association of volunteer female ambulance drivers. The aim is to allow Hasidic Jewish women not to have to be in close contact with male healthcare workers.
Radio check, EN 748 at base.
5 by 5 Latin.
Hello?
Your honey's crying.
Oh, man.
The association has 50 or so volunteers who work during the day and make themselves available at night.
Oh my gosh, she got so big.
She got so big, no? It's crazy. So many women were like traumatized from their experiences. Many women didn't even call for help because they were too embarrassed to have a man show up. A lot of men were upset about it. They didn't want women to do this. They felt it's not a place for women. And all the big rabbis said that it is very important and women should be doing it. But it is, funny to see women driving an ambulance when you're not used to that. But the rabbi said that even if it's not the typical, it's still better than having a man deliver a baby.
The rabbi's support put an end to the controversy, because among Hasidic Jews, they make all the major decisions. For example, Leah only agreed to our interview with her rabbi's consent.
I was worried about being on all the, TV interviews because we are raised that a woman's face shouldn't be publicized, and I knew that. So I went to my rabbi, who's a very, very religious person, and he knows everything about Ezra Nashim and about all the things that we do. If he says it's the right thing for me, I don't have to be worried.
The same applies to using her telephone. At the price of $15 per month, a community service limits internet access, which the rabbis view as inappropriate. Because in 2012, the main leaders of the Hasidic movement banned their followers from using the internet except for work or with their rabbi's permission. There was a big fanfare around the announcement, and a lot of people there filmed it on their phones. 60,000 men, but no women, gathered in this packed baseball stadium to hear the statement.
We are here to heed the call of the Judaic who have recognized and identified that this issue is the Messiah, something that threatens our continued existence as the Am Hashem.
Women were invited to watch the event on a screen outside. Smartphones are not banned in the Chabad Lubavitch community, but all important decisions are made after consultation with a rabbi, known as a mashpia, who is also a marriage advisor and personal coach. The Katz's mashpia, Rikvi's uncle, is Rabbi Manis Friedman, who is famous for having introduced Bob Dylan to the great Rebbe in the 80s.
Let's have peace. People who have a mashpia accomplish more.
Did it help?
Absolutely. I've been asking you questions from before we were married. When your name came up, and then when I was ready to get engaged, I called you. And then when we were ready to thinking about moving to Florida, you said, try it out for a year. So we weren't sure what you meant. Maybe, did you think it wasn't a good idea? You're just saying, try it out and you'll end up back? But you gave the go-ahead.
And then it's as if you started a trend after that.
In recent years, many Hasidic Jews from New York have moved to Florida, one of the most liberal states in terms of religion, where they can provide an education entirely in line with their beliefs. One hour from Miami and its seafront lies the small town of Boca Raton. Its beaches, but above all its shops and kosher restaurants. The Katz family have lived here for 3 years. They've just come back from New York after the end of the Jewish Passover festival.
Breakfast, snacks in the car. Go, let's go. Another day to change the world like that. Bon appetit.
We can make a smoothie. We have time. It's a little late.
The reason they have chosen this town is for the education of their 9 children. During the COVID health crisis, schools remained closed for a long time in New York. At the same time, this Chabad Lubavitch school opened in Boca Raton. And here, the teaching mostly revolves around religion and Jewish tradition.
So all 9 kids go to the same school. Makes it easy. The learning's done in Hebrew, a little Yiddish. It's really concentrated, sort of an old school style teaching of, you know, the way it was perhaps done in the shtetl back in Poland.
Thank you.
Good morning.
A hello to the teacher in Yiddish, and the day begins.
Number 2.
When you're done, only the red.
This is Yiddish. Trach gut, wird sein gut. Think good, and it will be good. That's how you say it in Yiddish.
Even though Yiddish is important, among the Chabad Lubavitch, the teaching is done in English.
We can't force them to do this. This is too hard. They're suffering enough as it is. So they had compassion.
The school opened in 2020 with around 30 pupils. 3 years later, it has almost 300, aged between 6 months and 15 years old. Boys and girls are separated from first grade. They each have to play on their own side at break time and get their photo taken separately, always with the Rebbe.
Behind me, this is a divider. It separates the boys' classes from the girls' classes. Hasidic circles, boys and girls don't casually date when they're like, you know, teenagers or pre-teenagers. Of course, when it comes to the time of marriage, that's when we focus on getting married. But until then, you're typically separated, male from female, in order to allow that intimacy to flourish when it's the right time, in the right way.
The day begins with morning prayer. The older boys pray with parents who are also teachers, like Yoni Katz. He and his wife are both teachers here. This helps them to reduce their children's school fees. Rivki is in charge of a kindergarten class. On the wall are the portraits of the 7 historic great masters, the Rebbes, of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. This morning, Rivki is organizing a role play. The little girls cover their heads like their mothers.
Remember in Shema, where we said...
And the boys put on the prayer shawl like their fathers. The children are learning not to forget to pray before eating.
Oh, Shneur Zalman, would you like some orange? Here. No, put it in your mouth. Oh. I forgot. What did we forget? We forgot a bracha. Let's have a second chance. Amen.
Ma, you put it in your mouth.
The children learn to read Hebrew from the age of 3, before even learning the Latin alphabet. Lots of boys want to become rabbis, so 3/4 of their lessons are devoted to religious education. For the girls, it's 60%.
What is Hashem doing now? He made the whole world for us, right? And what does he do for us now? He makes us, right?
Yes.
He made, how do you say man in Hebrew? Adam. Right. Close your book now.
This means that there's not much time left for the rest. English, maths, a little science. And as the principal explains to us, they teach creationism, the idea that God created the world.
There are many books out there that explain science and Torah together. They use Jewish science books.
Okay, so how, like, do you teach evolution?
So evolution, that's a specific area that, that the Torah has, that we don't believe in, and we have a different theory of how the world was created. We believe, like the Torah says, that God created it. He created a whole world, but all the other parts of STEM and how, the nature works and, biology, they're learning.
Like reproduction and such?
There are curriculums that explain reproduction in in specific ways. We have specific ways to teach that. I don't know if I wouldn't get into that right here.
Sure.
The US federal government has no authority over education, and Florida has no control over the curricula of private religious schools. The children only have to pass tests and prove their basic knowledge of maths and English, which allows schools like this one to benefit from state aid. Every Friday, before going home to celebrate Shabbat, the weekly day of rest in the Jewish religion, the boys learn to sing and dance like their elders. If Hasidic Jews have found their place in the sun in Florida, elsewhere, peaceful coexistence is not always easy and can even turn into a territorial dispute. The small town of Monroe lies an hour and a half from New York. This typical American town had never seen Hasidic Jews until the 1970s, when about 15 families from the Satmar branch settled there.
This reminds me of days of like protesting and everything, out in the cold.
Mike and John have lived in Monroe for many years. In 2013, they created a group to fight the growth of this new community, which had become a majority, having grown from 100 or so people 50 years ago to 35,000 today. Compared to 9,000 inhabitants in the rest of the town.
Our house, this was my house over here on the left, with the green garage. When I moved here, almost all the homes were owned by non-Hasidic people, but now it's predominantly Hasidim who own these houses.
The Hasidic Jews are concentrated in an area covering 3 square kilometers called Kiryas Joel, after the name of their rabbi. 40% of them live below the poverty line. Their lifestyle, their presence here, is upsetting to some of the local people.
Welcome to Kiryas Joel. We kindly ask that you dress and behave in a modest way. This includes wearing long skirts or pants, covered necklines, sleeves past the elbow, use appropriate language, maintain gender separation in all public areas.
Most of the people that live in Monroe live there for that environment. They want to live in a rural, semi-rural area with trees.
There's such a cultural difference, and I don't think this was meant to be like I said, I don't think it was meant to be a provocation to us, but it could be seen as one.
In 2013, when the Hasidic Jews asked to use 2 square kilometers of nature to build new housing, Mike and John led the revolt.
The reaction was, no freaking way.
Yeah, yeah.
We saw it as a chance for the town of Monroe, if we could politically separate the village of Kiryas Joel into its own town, then the voters of Kiryas Joel and the leadership could no longer dictate who was on the town board in Monroe.
So Monroe gave up 1 square kilometer of land and no more. In exchange, Kiryas Joel agreed to become an independent town in 2019. It was intended to calm local tensions. Spotting Mike and John, a neighbor comes to meet them.
You got matzah?
Yeah, I'll bring you some.
Thank you.
You know this guy?
No.
Okay. That's funny.
That's great, man. You remember United Monroe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what me and Mike. And
hi, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm John.
Sean.
What's your name?
Joe.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Yeah, I used to live down on Seven Springs Mountain Road. I live in Florida now, and I didn't think I'd get matzah.
Fresh matzah,
Yeah,
you know.
fantastic.
The weather's much better than here.
Oh, it's much better. Yeah.
Enjoy the matzah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Enjoy.
Everything good?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's that?
You can take it to the
But the truce between the communities only lasted for 10 years, and everyone remains wary, especially Mike, who takes a dim view of the arrival of other Hasidic Jews to the town.
This house here is being built by a Hasidic gentleman right there. See the big one in the back there? He's got 8 children. That was all woods, you know. And so that's a bit of a change in this neighborhood then. He seems like a nice fella, and he promised me we won't have a lot of traffic. This is a nice quiet street, but he said we won't have a lot of traffic. I have 8 kids and 1 car, so won't be coming down the block. Yeah. But what will be, as you would know, John, is school buses.
School buses and taxi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Living in an isolated community like Kiryas Joel can cause problems when it comes to peacefully coexisting with the neighbors. But if you want to leave, you risk losing everything, including your family, while being completely unprepared for life outside of the movement. A few hundred kilometers further north, Montreal, Canada. 20,000 Hasidic Jews live here. 15 years ago, Shifra and her husband Yochanan lived with their 4 children in a totally isolated community known as Kiryas Tosh, one of the most extreme in the Hasidic world.
I actually know how to play. A picture of our family in Tosh.
At the time, Shifra shaved her head and covered it with a scarf. She doesn't wear one anymore. In Kiryas Tosh, the religious authorities forbade everything to do with modernity, including English, the very language of the country that they live in.
I don't even know the ABC by heart now.
Everything was in Yiddish. Only Yiddish literature. We were not allowed to read English books, even if it was religious English books, because we were told that the English language is evil, like it blemishes your soul. Even bicycles were not allowed.
No TV, no cinema, no movies, no videos, no Game Boy, no Time Out, no radio. So what do they have? And we didn't even have much games or toys or other stuff for them to play.
So Yochanan broke a fundamental rule. He visited a Jewish but non-Hasidic library in secret.
We bring home books and tapes and Always music had to be in the house. He would dance with them, sing with them, like the songs, the Yiddish songs. It wasn't from religious Jews. It's just fun children's songs. Like, what's the point of that, you know?
They said, Yochanan is dangerous. So what was the result of this? That people were afraid to talk to me. So I became isolated.
Yochanan and Shifra then made a momentous decision which would carry heavy consequences. They left their community. They remain practicing Jews but are no longer Hasidic. They take us to Kiryas Tosh, just half an hour from Montreal city centre.
Every moment here is like I feel like I'm in a burning pot, you know? I love that it's Friday before sundown, so that way everybody's too busy to notice.
This is the hidden street where it's taboo to walk for boys. Okay, here's the mikvah. We were told that there's a haunted house here.
Shifra doesn't want to get out for fear of meeting her parents, whom she hardly sees anymore.
You want to go? No. That's the entrance to the cheder. We're gonna have to park in a side place.
We park behind the building as Shifra asks us. She's extremely tense, because you are not welcome here unless you follow the rules.
I'm afraid to be recognized. There's a car that's coming here, so I'm already nervous. Because I'm not dressed Hasidic, I have my hair uncovered. I don't want to take any chances to get people angry. And particularly, I don't want my mother to have to pay the price of being shamed. People start talking, you know, like.
Are those places we like to be talked with?
I don't know if there's any place in Tosh where I felt good in. A prison is a prison. You can never feel good in a prison. I had to wake up in the morning 5:30 every day, and 6:15 we had to be in the cheder studying. No food, no drink, nothing. You had to pray very loud, like. So this type, we spend time for other things, like to take a walk in the summer under the sun or something like this, could be considered a sin.
Couples who are pious should not go together on the street.
It was forbidden actually here for couples to walk.
Did you know why?
Because you gotta keep everything sexual private, even if it has nothing to do with sexual, like just the idea of a man and a woman together, because it's a very strictly segregated community.
They take us to see their first flat.
Right there. Definitely you're gonna go up? To our first apartment?
Why not?
Okay.
You're not allowed to drive before marriage, so every teenage boy is desperate to leave the prison of the yeshiva, to be able to drive, to be able to have sex, and birth control is forbidden. And then they have many children. If you leave the fold, you lose contact with your own children, so everybody is afraid to leave.
Yochanan's presence won't go unnoticed.
So when I lived here, I could hear the neighbor tutoring a boy Gemara, or whatever.
Private property. This is
A former classmate from his religious school takes him to task in a mixture of Yiddish and English.
What's your name?
None of your business. Take of your keeper. Because you don't go with a keeper. It's a mahal Shabbos. Nicht bei deinem Tate bist du, nicht bei deiner Mama, nicht bei der Schwierigkeit, das ist euch in Israel. Deine Kinder sind ein Goyim gemieren, wenn eigentlich sagen, hast du mit Goytes, mit Goyim, sind sie gut nicht bleiben von dir. Except for the
My children are more Jewish than you.
More Jewish. So there's nothing to blame for us.
My children know Torah more than you.
Because you are a loser and you can make anything out of yourself. Don't blame the
I'm a hero.
guy that's sitting in that is mensch. Then take a job, start making money, stop blaming the world, and take care of yourself.
What should I say? It's a cult-like community where people they want people to be kind of isolated or insulated.
When they left their community, Yohanan and Shifra were cut off from most of their loved ones. But by leaving together, they've been able to raise their children freely. We're meeting their daughter Esther, who speaks English and even French. She's doing film studies. All this would have been impossible if her parents had stayed in Kiryas Tosh.
L'idée de se marier pour l'amour, l'idée d'avoir des relations sexuelles saines, l'idée de porter ce qu'on veut, d'avoir les passions qu'on veut, l'idée de cinéma, l'idée de lire les livres qu'on veut, d'écrire ce qu'on veut, de dire ce qu'on veut. C'est pas vraiment une option.
Quelle serait ta vie si tu étais restée dans la communauté ultra-orthodoxe?
J'ai 22 ans, donc je serais sûrement mariée, j'aurais au moins 1-2 enfants. Je serais mariée avec quelqu'un que je connais pas vraiment. Ils m'ont sauvée de ça et je leur dois ma vie en fait.
In her short film, which she decided to shoot in Yiddish, Esther asked her mother to put herself in the shoes of a Hasidic woman.
Babys friend hat gesagt, sie hat gesehen letzte Woche sich kischen mit einem Mädel. Man darf treffen als Schiddich von die wie schneller in die alle Stissen wollen sich aufhören.
Stissen? Sie nicht keine Stisse, Mommy. I love her. And her name is Melody.
Luckily for Esther, when she fell in love with a girl, that's not how it went.
J'ai dit à ma mère que j'ai dit à cette fille que je l'aimais. Et ma mère était comme cool, wow, ok.
On Friday evenings, the family meets to celebrate Shabbat in their own way. Yohanan and Shifra found it extremely hard to find their place in a world where they didn't know the rules. So in 2014, they sued the Canadian government for not having ensured that they received a basic education. But their petition was dismissed. Despite it all, they have found a balance today. They and their children are happy.